thank you. I'm Stephan Hufnagl. I'm the CTO for Traydstream, and I have Peter here with me today from Microsoft, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Great.
Maybe you can tell us a bit about what's coming in the AI space.
Great. So Peter Hazou with Microsoft now for quite a number of years, but I'm a career banker, and I started my career in trade finance. In fact, on the industry team of Microsoft, I'm responsible for corporate and commercial banking, which is a big focus on trade finance, mostly because it's quite, as a legacy business, quite old-fashioned business model, old-fashioned operating model. And now with the new technology, this is not futuristic technology, this is really here and now technology. We're really talking with a lot of clients, with yourselves, in terms of the transformation of how they modernize their business with AI, of course, that's been around for a while, but also very much generative AI. And so it's a very interesting space. So thank you very much for having me. I think it'll be a good conversation.
Great to have you here. I think AI definitely, as you mentioned already, is front of center, and then all the new things that are coming up and everything else. And we have been trying to use things, but maybe we can tell us just a bit of what's coming up, what the big things are, the big themes.
Well, actually, one of the with much of financial services, a lot of what the new technology is doing is helping transform the entire customer experience. And that's the customer experience both from the customer's point of view and also internally in terms of the staff that's managing the business. I'm thinking call centers, contact centers specific to trade finance. So it's very interesting. Of course, AI has been around for a while and has been an aid. It's been predominantly focused on financial crime and that kind of stuff, but it's also the tradition of AI, how it's applied, is structured, rule-based bots. And I think with this generative AI, there's the entire new capability of natural language processing, and that can happen in many different ways. You can type stuff in, you can speak to it, you can talk to an avatar. There's all these new different ways of getting customer service and reasoning over data to pull information and insights together from multiple systems. And I know you're very much a specialist in that, particularly in the AI space and how that's evolving. So, that's a big area that we see this new technology transforming trade finance.
No, fair enough. It's funny that how you phrase the whole thing. It's pretty much the history of Traydstream itself, right? It's like, there is a lot of unstructured data in the trade finance space. We want to fix that. Use all the traditional AI methods that are there, and build our own models and do all of this. And now with the advent of all the generative AI, we're actually getting a lot into that field of we can use that to make sense of certain sentences, and that much better compared to what has been traditionally done. And I was really happy to see with our partnership as well the utilization of GPT and all of that, where we can properly extract certain passages and stuff and properly map them automatically to the rules that should apply and all of this, which was to a certain degree we did that before, but we weren't able to do it as easily, and I think that's really a great thing.
And it's wonderful to see the evolution, because it's not easy. Trade documents since time immemorial come in all kinds of different forms. One of the challenges around trade finance is it's a very global business, and very important global business to the banks, because it's about the global supply chain and commerce. But a lot of those documents in question are, come in all kinds of different forms with all kinds of different information. So recognizing, what's on the form, accuracy, and then being able to then map it in order to check the compliance of it and all those other kinds of stuff. And that's where companies like yourselves really specialize in that ability. And it's quite admirable, because it is a very diverse global set of data.
The global element is definitely a challenge sometimes, right? It's like some have nice standards and everything else, and you could apply that, and then you find a written piece of paper here and there sometimes, so people putting notes on it rather than actually, and then trying to make that digital to actually properly. And this is there's two parts of the AI, right? There's the one part where you actually digitize it in the first place, which traditionally with OCR method has been done to a certain degree, but not as well. And then the secondary part where you actually then utilize this data to properly process it, understand it, the workability of letters of credit and the whole systematic. So it's great how this has been progressing over it. And that, I think we have seen also a good boost in our efficiency.
What's absolutely crazy is that a lot of this paper-based information vis-a-vis all the documents involved in trade transactions, a lot of it is already in digital form, coming from the clients, coming from the shipping companies, logistical companies, manufacturers, and then because of the history of banking, it's got to be printed out, stuffed into envelopes, and sent to the banks to be reviewed. And that's, I think, where Traydstream comes in. I mean, how to interpret through optical character recognition, but do it with accuracy, because that's the big challenge. It's not a matter of just digitizing it. It's really the ability to do something with it. So the quality of understanding of what's in the documents is super important. Yeah. And this will have enormous positive implications. For one thing, on the cost. Currently, these documents have to be examined. So what does that mean? That means they're documents that are done manually. Yeah. And then also there's, document checkers. It's a high skill. I started my career looking at those documents. I didn't know what the hell I was looking at. But finally I learned a lot about it. But as talent that does this also ages out of the population, it's a big driver. And also there's a global agenda now around digitization. It helps SMEs, it helps grow business. From a banking point of view, it also reduces the cost of processing and frees up people to really face clients and do things in a more productive way rather than just purely the mundane examining docs. So it's very interesting.
It's not a really nice job, arguably, at a certain point in time. The validation checking, but sometimes it's really just like, okay, you read it and write it somewhere else, and the digitalization part as such, and the checking of manually.
Yes.
It's not a very pleasant. And it's great actually that technology can help solve that and make it easier. Even for there's still an element of manual review to a certain degree. There is some certainty that you want to have, and there's risk involved, obviously, for a bank to make sure that it is fine. But the more we can reduce that, the better. So that's a really good one. The interesting thing as well is actually, to a certain degree, in some regions of the world, there is more digital data that we get from the start, which is nice.
Which is nice.
So we're slowly getting there, but I think it's a very slow process, unfortunately.
Yes, and you're right. One of the elements of globalization is not just that the documents are different coming from different parts of the globe, but the process of digitization is different in different parts of the world. So there are e-invoices in some markets, there are not in others. Things are printed on rice paper in other markets. I mean, there's all different kinds of things. I do think that the evolution, and it'd be also interesting to get your insights, as much of this data is emanating in digital form from someplace, it might be also how does it happen in the future so that it is captured in digital format initially, rather than going to paper first and being OCR into doc checking. And so, what are your insights in terms of your thinking as Traydstream in terms of that? No,
absolutely, and we're absolutely hoping for more digital data, because the digitalization part is a proper hard part, and there's still tedious sometimes for humans to oversee that and at least double check it sometimes. One of the key things, actually, we have a product for that, which is the Trade Connect, where we connect different entities and stuff like that, so that at least if they're already working together, like a corporate and a bank that work on a transaction, don't have to both do the digitalization part. It's like, well, at least if one already did it on our platform, they can send it from our platform to the next. And the more we can get that, we have a couple of partners that we work with as well that give us digital data. And the more digital data that can flow into the system, the better it gets. And we can utilize all the models that we have built after that stage to then interpret the text, make sure that it is actually correct and validated and everything else, which is the much more interesting part for us as well over time to get to that next level. And then you collect more and more data, and then you get proper insights into the business when it's really that. It's the typical journey of you can do proper analytics on it. You can really understand what's happening. and that's really great.
So actually building on that, there's so much discussion around generative AI or OpenAI, call it whatever it is. Certainly it's a transformative technology, but it's not the only technology. And of course the technology industry's been full of a lot of things, some of which have been hype cycles and really good technologies, but then looking for a network effect, et cetera, et cetera. But in the case of this kind of digitization and the application of generative AI, the really interesting thing is where it goes from here in terms of linking to other technologies. So once it's in digital form, the data is there and properly understood, properly mapped, call it that way just for lack of a better expression. It also then maps into other things through things like Power Platform, to the relevance of how it integrates with other ecosystems. It really opens it wide open, and I think that's really where a lot of the future was very interesting area.
Yeah.
So it's broader than just generative AIs, I guess.
Absolutely. And the analytics part is fascinating. I'm generally always excited when I see data and when I can understand how things link together and do proper analytics over a set of data sources. And the more we have the data digitized, we can, even for the customers, we can give them a nice overview of what they are really doing on the platform, what's happening and what's happening on their entire portfolio. Yeah. And this is really great. So using also Microsoft tooling as such with Fabric and stuff, makes that very easy. Yes. You have the data, you just plug it in and you give somebody a bit of way to play around with it. Yeah. And very quickly you understand, there is something interesting that I should be looking at. And that's just great. And
so I think it will actually, finally, after hundreds of years being rather static as good old-fashioned trade finance, how I started my career, it's actually entering, I think, an entirely new space because it links to broader supply chains, which is generally referred to as a logistical industry. I don't know why, when banking is at the center, everything's got to be either paid for or financed. So there's real linkages, ecosystem linkages, et cetera, but it also, I think, opens up completely new business models for the banks. So in the near term, of course, it's a cost savings, but that's one element of it, and that cost savings will improve margin, open up more investments, but also permit the redeployment of staff from mundane things to more value-added things with clients. And we've seen this in other industries too. So it's not just the legal industry is being transformed by generative AI. There's so many different implications, but I think for the banks, it's where does it go? How do they make money? It's such an interesting discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of processes around that, around the typical trade finance of checking and stuff like this. Some of which are necessary from a compliance point of view and everything else, and some of which is just like for a bank to make more money or just to make the process work. Yeah. And absolutely all of those, and some of which we're already getting our headway in as well, because we are expanding the product because we already have things and it makes it easier to then adopt the next things, and some are definitely on the roadmap for the future. Yeah. So it's great to bring all of those together.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to work with yourselves. We're so interested in the transformation of industries and processes. It's not about just new technology. I mean, I speak from a technology firm, but technology is just an enabler. Yeah. It's really an enabler to help improve processes of what people and companies and enterprises want to achieve. It's not just new technology for new technology's sake. So it's really great to work with you, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you for coming in, and absolutely returning. It's been a pleasure having to work with yourself and as a sponsor for us at Microsoft and Microsoft as well. It's been a really good partnership of really working together on different levels and making the product better.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.